can beat your opponent when they know their rules well, it means you're better, right? You don't need to capitalize on their mistakes.
Yes, I think so.
I mean, I'm going to be the devil's advocate. Okay? I'm going to try and throw a monkey wrench in all of this because I kind of want to stimulate a bit of discussion. But, you know, there's like, I don't necessarily think that's true. And I'm sure we all have certain experiences, we can kind of like segue a little bit into the toxic player topic.
Sure.
Which is, we all know that one or two toxic fellas that will just do everything to win. Then once they win, right, it's like they know that, okay, like you can't reverse the decision. You reverse already is also like it doesn't really mean much, right? It's kind of like 先斩后奏 lah, you know. You already decapitated the fella, then later you accuse him of a crime, right? So there are players out there who doesn't practice this level of sportsmanship. Manage being able to also win competitions, albeit in a uglier manner. But for them, right, victory is victory. It's like victory
a win is a win.
A win is a win.
Then it's like, what are you going to do about it? You're going to remove my championship? Why? Because I'm not nice, you know. So there's, I think, for me personally, okay, and I'll love to hear from the both of you. I think there's like, the way that I respond to such things, right, is okay. I will extend you all the courtesy at first, but then once you cross a certain line, right, then that's it already. I'll play as nasty as you. Right?
Oh yes, for sure. I think I strongly believe that if somebody, like for example, there's this idea of you play with a clock, right, like a chess clock, so that each person has allocated time. If somebody is aggressively chess clocking you, you should do it back to them. Why not? It's you know, there's no reason to extend courtesy for people who are not trying to. Right. This is the part where it's like you communicate, right? So you see, hey, where is this guy coming from? If this guy has been at all costs, let's go, cutthroat, don't care. Yeah, but you know, right? Help when you know you're gonna get into it is different from when you are stepping in thinking you are getting a good game, but then, a more courteous or gracious game, but then you actually ending up in a cutthroat. And also that happens a lot when it's easy to be gracious when you're winning. Then when it matters and it starts to tail off and you're starting to lose, people start to, but at least you have that sort of mental prep. You know, I feel that's important also. Not so jarring.
Yeah. So from our chat. Paige Neo, playing by intention is the best. Okay. So Paige is a King of War fella, and then he's also asking, when are we gonna get a King of War live stream?
Bro, this is the second episode only.
So
give us some time.
Another thing is, King of War need to move at like 3 times the speed before we can have like a appropriate live stream for it. But speaking of Paige, right, which is he's also, I mean, he's kind of one of our premier Kings of War player. I remember during one of the tournaments, okay, against a particular player who shall not be named. This was at one of our tournaments final table already. Every round, he needs to stand on top of the table to take a photo from the top view of the whole battlefield.
Why?
So yes, why? Why indeed, Johan? So the reason for this is because he needed photographic evidence that this particular unit was here at this point in time. Because this player is famous for moving the miniatures, then post-measuring it from an imaginary position, and then say, oh yeah, it was in order the whole time. So then after that, Paige will be like, okay, no, let's refer to the photograph, okay, and then we will see where exactly was this unit to begin with. Yeah. So this is the unfortunate side of gaming.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just one of like, I think, Joel, what you mentioned at the very start was that fundamentally this is a social game.
Yeah.
And socially, these are the type of things. Sometimes you are fighting with the rules, sometimes you're fighting with the person.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't mind fighting with the rules, but I hate fighting with the person.
Yeah, it's a never-ending battle, right? You can't win. And
I mean, it's a hobby. Tabletop wargaming is a hobby. Everybody has a day job. Everybody plays the game to have fun.
Yeah.
So I think it's our own responsibility to make sure your opponent have fun as well. If you are not having fun as a hobby after work, right, then what's the point in playing?
Yeah. The amount of hours you put in.
I mean, casually casually, you are going for competitions, then that's another matter.
Paige also mentioned pointing out opponent's tactical mistake, definitely very gracious and nice to receive, but definitely shouldn't be an expectation.
Oh no, for sure it's not. I don't think it can be an expectation. I think that's asking too much of people. But I think what I was referring more to was more like, for example, if I say to you, can you do X or Y, then don't say maybe or don't say no. So I can do this or that, and these are the things you want. Open information. I'm not telling you what decision to make. I'm not giving you the best choice because I might have my own thoughts. You make a decision, but if you ask me something, I'm full transparency giving you the reply that you deserve in the hopes that I get the same when I ask you questions.
One of the things back then, I don't know if you recall War Machine Hots. There's actually a rule in the rule book, right, that says that you can ask your opponent what is the max threat range, what is the maximum like charging range of this unit, and then the opponent has to give you the number, but they don't have to give you the mechanics. They don't have to tell you how or why, but they have to give you an accurate number. So this is like, it's actually a core component in the rules, which I actually find it quite refreshing. But then at the same time, it's also not represented anymore in a lot of the newer games.
There's I think it's called the page 5 rules for War Machine Hots. In that page 5 rules, right, there are a few rules, but at the end of it, right, there's one rule that says that let's make sure everybody have fun. I think, including that in a rule book is actually a very, very good thought.
Actually, I feel we have a lot of complaints about GW, which we'll get into later. But I think one thing that has gone better is like if you see some of the games like AOS or 40K, especially recent times, there's a bit more like interest in like player conduct. And to be fair, I think one of the things that struck me most about WTC versus every other big tournament was they stress player conduct. Like
as you told me.
So even in their charter, right, like if the rules, right, there are certain expectations around like if your opponent asks you something that is reasonable, you have to give. And actually, what will happen is that if it's contentious and you call a judge, the judge can give you a card for poor sportsmanship
penalty,
and the penalty is as bad as cheating, which I found like super refreshing personally.
Yeah, poor sportsmanship is really one of the killers for a lot of the newer players in the game.
Yes.
Like they might be interested in picking up a particular system, but then only to find that the people in that community is just like toxic as heck.
But it's actually not the people, but it's a few individuals. Let me give a very, very, very pure example. The one I told Joel just before the streaming starts. So at the end of War Machine Hots, my War Machine House career, that's around 2016. So around 2017, we were looking at 40K. A few of us from War Machine House. So we found somebody to give us a demo. I don't know how we find him. We forgot about it. It was too long ago. So there were 3 of us having a demo with this one particular person. Of course, I'm not going to name him. So we went down for a demo. So we decided to play 2-on-2 because there are 3 of us and he's giving a demo to 3 of us. So I was partnered with one of my friend, KJ, who's going to be our guest next week, next episode, I think, most likely. So what happened was that person giving us a demo had the first turn. So he unloads his Corn Berserkers from his Rhino, he ran, and then he charged KJ's army, and KJ's army just disappeared from the board, and that's turn 1. And that's a demo game, okay? It's a demo game. And then, all right, then he packed up his army, and then I was over there like, what just happened? What the just happened?
It's a demolition, not a demo.
Yeah. So
total demolition.
Yeah. So KJ is like, okay, 40K. Oh, sorry, vulgarities.
So Quan Jin is in the chat, and then he's saying, "I'm getting PTSD."
Don't worry, we'll give you a redo.
And actually, there's a lot of stories of toxic players in the wargaming community. I mean, 40K as a bigger proportion player base has more of these toxic players, but that doesn't mean that smaller games don't
think just by pure numbers. I think 40K in terms of tabletop gaming, they are probably still the highest in terms of player count.
Yes.
I'm counting those people in the woodworks also. Those you suddenly activate a tournament, then those 5 years never seen, they will just crawl out of whatever space they are in. I'm including those people as well. Active players, maybe, it's on and off. I mean, depending on any given context.
I will caveat that I also came from Magic the Gathering and competitive play there. So, that one a lot.
Okay, Magic. We are not going to start into Magic.
Magic is a whole new system.
So toxic players. I think the real question is, should we get rid of them from the community. By getting rid, I mean, okay, so maybe not get rid of them, but should we sound them out?
I mean, for me, personally, okay, I'm not a fan of bullies. And I think some people at HammerHouse have witnessed me, stood up to those like very toxic players before. And then once they realize that I'm standing up to them, then they suddenly crowd around want to kepo a bit.
We all love drama.
So, and I know Johan personally as well, where he also has stood up for some individuals within our Kings of War community. He was in a WhatsApp group, and I also really respect him for that. That sometimes these people, they just talk, right, and then you just feel, wow, lao, can you just please shut the F up? Like, bro, no one wants to hear you talk. And my personal thing is, I think there should be some sort of like 3-strike rule. You kind of like 1 time, 2 time, we can close 1 eye, 2 eye. Then the 3rd time, you should be out. What do you think, Joel?
I think that as a player is where we really value having a shop that's willing to do the right thing. I mean, the fact that I'm volunteering my time with HammerHouse will say a lot, right? But in the same way as WTC has that player conduct, I think, let's just put it this way. All of us can be assholes, right? That we will have good moods, have bad moods, and when we are not in a good mood, we are not going to be very nice to the people we're playing against, even if normally we are a different person. So I think part of making sure that you can eliminate toxic players is to squeeze out the life of any incentive that lets them do that. Because if the rules are clean, if the expectation is that if you're an asshole, you're going to get a yellow card, then even if you're really an asshole but you want to do well, you will put on a face, right? You will present yourself as a certain kind of person for the purposes of the tournament. And I think in that regard, that is good enough. I can't expect someone to be a different person.
Yep.
So to me, this is the part where if any organized play, organized store is willing to make the effort to squeeze that out, then as players, we also need to support it, right? Then, so when they say no assholes policy, we need to be able to call it out. We need to be able to support the store when they say, because to me also, if the store bans some of these players or X's them out, they are in some ways losing some revenue with the hope of getting loyalty from the rest of the community. So if as players in the community, a store pushes out someone who is constantly, throwing tantrum, being rude, clocking people, being negative, then we need to appreciate it, because then the store also has incentive to continue to build this culture, right? Because if the store sees that nobody cares, then why should they, right? Because at the end of the day, you're a business. So I think there's a part in me that is it needs to be led by the store, because then there is no for example, if I am having a bad game with you, Johan, right? It's not about me and you. It's the store set this policy. This is the standard. We all adhere to it, or we don't. And there is less personal. It's more like a standard. And then when that happens, as a player population, we need to support the store, lah.
I think not really the store. Sorry, not to contradict you, but
no, just continue.
Go on,
just go.
Yeah, he asking for it.
Okay. The store has to stay neutral, but of course we don't allow people to be arguing in our group chats or having a fight in our group chats or even personally in the store. Of course, that we will have to step in.
Of course.
But in terms of toxic players in the community, whatever game community, I think the community has to do it themselves, because as a store, unless he misrepresents himself in the store physically, yes, we can do something. But if it's out of the store, out of our organized play, on a casual games, he's being a toxic player, there's nothing we can do. You're right. I mean, what can we do? Can we say, hey, you are being toxic to our community players?
No, I don't think that's quite what I mean. What I mean is that having less toxic behavior to me is hand in hand with having standards of ourselves.
Yes, I mean, yes, the store can put in some standards, but we can only implement those standards when we have organized play. But I'm talking about overall community-wise, day-to-day community.
Yeah, fair enough. Outside of organized play, I mean, I agree, but I don't think there's such a thing that these are independent silos, right? They are all bled together. Because if my tournament scene is a certain way, in my casual scene, I'm preparing for the tournament scene in a certain way. So while if you never play competitive, you only play casual, and someone's toxic to you, there's nothing to be done. But if you have a high standard of sportsmanship at the tournament scene level, and I am a casual player and I've gone to the, and this is the standard in which I know the game can be, I feel that that person will be less tolerant of someone being a douchebag.
I think, so both of you have like a good point. I'm going to be one of those like fence-sitter guy and just be like, oh, I'm going to both sides this, I'm going to both side them. So I think what Johan was referring to is there is a sphere of influence that the store can have.
Yeah.
But then like beyond that sphere, right, there's really nothing much they can do. And if there is a toxic player that's somewhat, kind of running rampant, even sometimes even just on the periphery, right, it's difficult for them to police all interactions.
Yeah.
And certain things they also don't want to appear to be like, oh, I favor this player or I favor that player. And then what Joel is also referring to is there has to be like a lot of the interactions are centered around the stores anyway.
Yep.
And since it's centered around the stores, then having like ground rules and then later enforcing them in some way, shape, and form. Like even if it's just, hey, like you shouldn't be talking like that to these
calling them out.
Yeah, just even just a small call out could go a long way in terms of like ensuring that this like community spaces, these gaming spaces, remain as toxic free as possible.
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of what the ultimate. It's a difficult balancing act, and like both sides, like really both of you have a point, and I think this goes to show, right, that any balancing act in any community is always a tough job.
And it's all in, right? I just want to say, like, this is not to say that as players we don't have the responsibility ourselves. I think as players, especially as players, if we see like stupid shit happening, like if we want our community to be a certain way, we cannot just be, wow, that person is such an asshole. That guy at the other shop. No, if you are at the other shop and you see it, I think, at least for myself, you have obligation is a very strong word. I'm not going to say obligation, but you have an incentive to go to that person, whether it's privately or publicly, and say, bro, not on, right? And I think the incentive for you is if you start to do this and that changes, and if other people are involved, then as a group maybe we can see some change. Because there are people who, I want to believe that people have a capacity to change. Because if not, then even for ourselves, we are dead already lah.
It's an incentive, of course. If you can change the attitude of that toxic players, then it benefits the whole community. Yeah. But it also, so good, coming back to the Kings of War one, there's multiple approach to that particular toxic person to ask him to change. We have Paige going to talk to him. We have our other Pathfinder guard going.
Then ban.
Yeah. So in the end,
sorry, no more Warhammer for you. Ban Hammer for you.
Yeah. So in the end, we just had to kick him out of the group, and then the group actually it was so bad until the group chat for Kings of War was silent. There was no looking for game because everybody's so afraid to look for game.
Yeah, he's the one that always will. He's so free, right? That he will, anytime someone look for a game, then he will just be like, "Oh, I'm gonna hope you." Then the issue is, of course, like, what are you gonna say? Hey, sorry, I don't want to play against you. It's like not nice.
No, actually, that's where I think you're wrong.
But not a lot of people do that. Yeah. So in the end, when we kicked him out, right, the very next hour, I wouldn't even say the next day. The very next hour,
look for game.
It's not even look for game. It's a list of who is looking for game, what time, what day. That's how toxic it is and how big a change can you make to a community when you remove the toxic.
Oh, that's very true. Like, I think there's a very high profile in the US, right, where there was an independent tournament circuit, like Frontline Gaming, friends of a well-known like cheater. Right? It got so bad to the point where like all the top pros, when they were breaking down the results for that tournament, right, they'll be like, I am a top American pro. I don't play there because of this person and because the organizers are not doing shit about it.
Oh, that's very bad.
Yeah. So even for a game that can be as flourishing as Warhammer, especially in the US, like shit like that happens at the highest level. So I don't know. Like, it's not an easy problem to solve. But I think a lot of the thing happens when the people start dropping off, taking a very public stand, and then looking at the shall we say the organizers. And then the organizers, if they don't choose to set the standard, then people turn against the organizer very quickly.
Yep.
But I would like to say that your bootcamp would be one of the ways to address such an issue. You know, like just inculcating certain core values into the newer players will go a long way into establishing, you know, like good governance, good sportsmanship in the future. You know, you're really cultivating the next generation, and I hope and I wish you all the best.
Oh, thanks. Again, entirely voluntary. There are no big ambitions with this. It's just giving back to HH only.
And thank you for your volunteering.
Thank you.